China's economic growth and macro policies. So yesterday, you can take a look at this place. A very important meeting was held here. That is the new agenda for world economy. And so the talks givers include Remy and Zhu Guangyao and Wang Yiming from National Development Research Center Research Foundation. So many topics were included. For example, China-U.S. trade, and especially the Section 301 investigation by the U.S. Many journalists and speakers will touch upon that. And the speakers have shared, many speakers have shared their views on those topics. And we interviewed Remy, the former president of WTO. So in the past, we have had numerous interviews with him, and this year he also shared his view that he did not want to see a trade war between U.S. and China. In his opinion, the Section 301 investigation that the U.S. is about to launch is not a wise move. Other media have also interviewed him on this topic. Aside from this, we also had a very interesting high spot yesterday. That is a meeting held by Zhu Ming about the new relationship between China and the U.S. in finance and trade. Many experts and journalists were there, and Mr. Zhu Ming was holding this forum very tactfully. So what is really happening with China-U.S. trade, and how about the Section 301 investigation against China? What is the purpose behind? How should China react? So these were the topics yesterday, and there were many very interesting opinions. Another equally impressive meeting yesterday was the China's reform and 40th anniversary of China's reform and opening up, also held in this meeting. And Lou Jiwei, a former senior official, also shared his views on Section 301 investigation. So in his opinion, he said, after he gave his talk, many people laughed because he did it in a very humorous way. He said, if I am going to take a job, I'm going to target at the small targets first and then move on to the bigger ones. So he was actually giving a warning that China actually has a lot of measures that it can take in reaction to the U.S. moves. So in a moment, around 9:50, we're going to have in Building 17, He Lifeng from NDRC will share his opinion. So after we have reviewed the interesting opinions yesterday, we're also going to share with you what are to be expected today. And today we're also going to have some newly elected officials, like the president of the central bank will also come here. So this is the first appearance they make after the 2 sessions. That's why it has attracted a lot of attention. What are the most important forums today? I will give you a list now beforehand. So the arrangements of the meetings have kept changing, and this is the latest update on the arrangement that we have got. What are the things to be expected to get today? 9:50 to 10 o'clock. Toward high development, He Lifeng and the president of Asian Development Bank will give their remarks on that. And then leaders from Ministry of Finance and Secretary General of OECD will share their views on fiscal and tax reform. And Wang Shouwen, Deputy Minister of Commerce, will talk about the new prospects for China's opening up. So he will talk in collaboration with Pascal Lamy. we're going to touch upon different fronts, economic, diplomacy, and many others. So we're going to see a lot of newly elected leaders. That's what gives this meeting so much weight. According to our understanding, at 9:50, the sharings given by He Lifeng will soon to begin. So let's take a look at what happens right there. Toward high-level development and high-quality development. In the 19th Party Congress report given by President Xi, he pointed out that we are turning our economy toward quality growth. In fully implementing the 19th CPC Congress guidelines, actually this year is the opening year for that, how to achieve this purpose has attracted a lot of attention from different fields. Currently, China's economy has maintained a relatively high growth with steady progress of agricultural modernization, urbanization, and supply-side reform, as well as regional collaborative development and innovative growth. In all these fronts, we have made significant achievements, but at the same time, we have seen problems like supply-side structural reform and deep-seated problems. They are still existing. We also have development that has not achieved not fully developed areas. So how to raise the development level? One critical aspect and other supporting aspects, these are important issues. How can we achieve this goal? By institutional innovation and management innovation. Discussions on these critical issues will be of great significance in facilitating a virtuous cycle in future, and also determines to a large extent whether we are able to achieve moderate prosperity in all rounds, in all aspects. And now we have the honor to have invited two important speakers. One is the Vice President of Consultative Conference of People, He Lifeng, and another is a leader from Asia Development Bank, and we're going to invite them to share their views on how to achieve high-quality growth in China. First of all, let us welcome the leader, Mr. He Lifeng, specializing in reform and development of the nation from the National Consultative People's Congress. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. In this beautiful spring day, and at the juncture of the 40th anniversary of China's reform and opening up, I'm very happy to be here with you, jointly talking about how to move forward toward high-quality growth. And on behalf of the NDRC, I would like to extend warm congratulations on the holding of this development forum, and I would like to extend my gratitude to all those that are interested and that are supporting China's growth. Just now we have heard very visionary remarks, and I was highly inspired by those talks. So now we're going to start discussions on some details on how to achieve high-quality growth. And now I'm going to share my views. President Xi pointed out that we are now moving toward high-quality growth from high-speed growth in the past, in terms of green, open, shared growth. This kind of growth is going to accommodate growing needs of our people. So moving forward in this direction, we have to place development first. We have to put talent and innovation at the core. We need to pay attention to three aspects. First is systematic development. First, high quality growth is not simply seeking high growth rate, but instead it should consider different areas like environmental protection and balanced growth so that we have more effective and more sustainable growth in future. The second aspect is dynamics. The purpose of having high quality growth is changing actually. According to our needs, according to realities, we have to enrich our goals throughout this process. The third is long-term sustainability. Moving forward, we need to take a long-term perspective and to guard against risks in different areas of society and be persistent in our efforts. Ladies and gentlemen, after many years of high growth rates, China's economy now stands as a new footing in the world stage. Promoting high quality growth is in line with our strategic needs and in line with the call of our times. Looking at the world history of the economy since 1960s, about 100 middle-income countries in the world, among them, 10 have moved into high-income countries. And those successful countries have experienced high growth rate, and they have managed a successful switch from high-speed growth to high-quality growth. Just as the previous speaker said, the important issue of our society, challenge that our society is facing, is moving to unbalanced growth and inadequate growth. So unbalanced growth is an important feature of inadequate growth, and we have to focus on these particular challenges to both improve the quality and quantity of growth. After 40 years of reform and opening up, especially since the 18th Party Congress, China's economy has achieved historical changes and accumulating great experiences for quality economic growth. For example, our GDP has grown from 54 trillion yuan in 2014 to 82 trillion yuan in 2017. So the annual gross aggregate has reached 8 trillion yuan. That is the added aggregate. According to the past exchange rate, that's about 12 trillion US dollars, with an annual, with a per capita amount of 900 US dollars. This is unprecedented in one sense. So that shows that China, in this process of turning from relatively high growth to the new round of growth, we have managed to facilitate the growth of emerging industries, as well as helping traditional industry make a shift and upgrade. These are things that we're doing at the same time. We have seen an increase in both quality growth and effectiveness. The per unit energy intensity has reduced by 20.9%. We have also seen significant changes in consumption patterns and industrial structures. Service industry have occupied a greater share. We have seen also more collaborative growth between urban and rural areas, as well as more collaborative development of new emerging industries like internet, mobile payment, and gene testing. We have seen deepening reform and opening up. The main structure of reform and opening up has been established. we are now moving toward more shared growth. We have managed to strengthen people's livelihood with newly added employed people in urban areas and rural areas amounting to 66 million people. We have also seen steady improvement in environment, and over the past few months in this new year, we have seen a continued maintenance of good momentum.
Also see the strong development of the new growth rate. But we're still facing some challenges. Right now, we still see a lot of problems for the insufficient development of China. We're still fighting against the three critical battles, which is the forestalling and the diffusing risks and the poverty alleviation and fighting against the pollution. We also need to enhance our ability in the innovation and conduct comprehensive research. And also we need to maintain a balance of the rural development and solve the problem of the gap between the rich and the poor. And we still have a lot of weakness in the living standards of the people, and we still have to pay close attention to the challenges that we have faced for the social development. We have taken substantive measures to solve this problem. Ladies and gentlemen, President Xi Jinping has identified that we have to build a modernized system and a mechanism. In order to achieve this goal, we have to work in the following four aspects. The first one, we have to emphasize the high quality and high efficiency. High quality development meaning that high quality demand and request, and also have a efficient output and high quality economic circulation. And we also have to optimize the supply chain in order to achieve a balance of the supply chain to ensure a steady tax income for the government and foster a very positive correlation. We have to take solid efforts to realize these goals, to emphasize the quality of the products and the service, and make concerted efforts in all aspects of the economic development. For the driving growth, we have to make sufficient resources investments and also put innovation as a priority in the economic development. And we also need to improve the efficiency of the labor. And the third point, we have to form an effective market, effective and a macro regulation mechanism. By doing so, we need to make market have a decisive role in the development. So the factor-oriented policy is the key to develop our market. We also need to provide enough incentive for the market and maintain an equal competition and eliminate those poor-performing companies in the market. We have to better leverage the function of the government and improve the fiscal and the monetary system, and to set up a policy and system assessment mechanism for the evaluation. Number 4, we have to also address the two key concerns. The first one, we have to pay extreme important attention to the three critical battles in order to secure a decisive victory in building a moderately prosperous society. And second, we have to keep improving and optimizing our economic structure and to build a the modern socialist country. China have made very clear arrangement in order to ensure a stable development. We have to focus on the 6 areas to develop such a society. The goal is to realize the real economy and have a coordinated development and consolidate the supply side reform and develop the new growth powers and improve the efficiency. Also enhanced the innovations-oriented development to make China a major country of innovators. You also need to improve our financial system to enhance the development of the property industry and better mobilize the human resources to improve the enthusiasm of the researchers and the scientists. Also, we have to build an opening up society. The purpose is to have a better market access and maintain an ordered manner. And also, we have to strengthen the protection of the ownership and to improve the legislation for the equity debt and the debt shares, etc. And also, we have to better utilize the labor forces and come up with a broad range of policies in order to enhance the fair market competition and eliminate and remove the barriers and the red tapes which hurts the development of the equal competition system in the market. And also, we need to have a very fair revenue share mechanism in the market and improve the relocation system for the revenue and improve the income for the rural areas and narrow the gap between the poor and the rich. And we also need to increase and enhance the weakness of the public sector in order to fight against the targeted poverty alleviation. So all of these efforts is to help leave the poverty relief in the education sector and the ecological sector. And we also want a coordinated coordination between the rural and the urban development. We also have to stay committed in improving the coordinated developments in the 4 key economic zones in China. For example, the Changjiang, the Yangtze River Belt economic zone. Coordinated steps should also be given to the rural revitalization in order to improve the reform in the rural areas. The 5th point, we have to pay attention to the environment and build a green development system. So we want to build a harmony of the development between the people and the nature, and in order to prevent the pollution in the air, soil, and water, in order to better achieve the goal of ecological conservation. Key measures should be taken for this in this regard. And we also need to supply more quality green products in order to make contribution for the energy conservation and create more entities in the area of green development. The sixth point is to build a safe, open-up sector, that is to build the open economy to better facilitate the development of Belt and Road initiatives. We want to further enhance and consolidate the achievements that we have from the Belt and Road Belt and Road Forum, and create a safe environment for investment from foreign countries. Continue effort should be made for opening up of the market access and the manufacturing industry, and bring more convenience for the trade. Ladies and gentlemen, so the spring is coming. China's endeavor for all of this high-quality development will bring more opportunities for foreign investors and make contribution for the economic development of the world. We sincerely hope that we can work together with our global partners to build a better future. Thank you. Thank you for Mr. He Lifeng's speech. Next, we will invite the President of the Asian Development Bank to give us a speech.
Mr. He Lifeng, Chairman of the National Development and Reform Commission, Mr. Zhang Jiuko, Vice President of the Development Research Center of the State Council, distinguished colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. This is the fifth time I have had the honor to participate in this distinguished forum as President of ADB. The China Development Forum is especially memorable this year as it marks the 40th anniversary of China's start of reforms and opening up. China joined the ADB in 1986 in the early years of the country's economic transformation. ADB is proud that we have contributed to China's remarkable development and will continue to be China's important development partner, working together by combining our lending and knowledge in key selective areas like climate change, the environment, and regional cooperation. China's achievement over the past 40 years have been phenomenal. The country's rapid economic growth has driven per capita income from one of the poorest in the world to the level of upper middle income country. China is now the second largest economy globally and is approaching high income country status. Poverty levels in China have fallen significantly, while 250 million people in the rural area lived below the national poverty line in 1978. The figure fell to 30 million at the end of 2017, and China is advancing toward its target of eradicating absolute poverty by 2020. And the government has committed to the Sustainable Development Goals. China has progressed from an economy, the basic agriculture and technology, to a global manufacturing powerhouse. It is now transitioning to an economy driven more by consumption and services. China has become a front runner in areas such as e-commerce and shared economies. New technologies and entrepreneurs are fostering the emergence of innovative industrial clusters. I have spoken on several occasions about 8 key conditions for economic development. This idea of 8 conditions was inspired by the experiences of China as well as others. They are: 1, investment in infrastructure; 2, investment in education and health; and 3, sound macroeconomic management; 4, open investment and trade regimes; 5, good governance and a strong delivery of public services; 6, social inclusiveness; 7, a clear vision for the future; and 8, security, political stability, and friendship with other countries. Indeed, China has devoted a larger portion of GDP to infrastructure investment, such as power and transport, much more than other developing countries. Investment in human capital has allowed China to better realize the potential of its large population. China has pursued prudent macroeconomic policies, especially after the early 1990s. Its determination to adopt market systems and open trade and investment regimes has been unwavering since 1978. Regarding inclusiveness, since the founding of the People's Republic, the status of farmers and women has been significantly enhanced. The government's 5-year plans have showed clear vision and strategy for the country's development reform. Still, I have been wondering, what is the key to China's success? Last year, a senior Chinese government official said to me that contrary to perception many people have, China's rapid growth has not just brought by the state guidance. Social drivers were the key. Reforms which started in 1978 unleashed people's aspiration to grow, to invent, and to live better lives. Today, I'd like to share my thoughts on how China can achieve high-quality development in a new era by tackling remaining and emerging challenges. I know that Chinese leaders understand these challenges clearly. They were discussed at the 19th National Congress of the Communist Party last October, and the recently concluded first session of the 13th National People's Congress. Vice Premier Han and Chairman Ha just discussed these issues very effectively. I myself will focus on 3 challenges: growing inequality, climate change and environment, and aging. The first is inclusiveness. China must ensure that the entire population can enjoy the fruits of growth more equally. China has lifted millions out of poverty, and people now enjoy better lives overall. But today, it is also true that China is facing the challenge of growing inequality. China is home to a large number of billionaires, but many people in lagging areas and in parts of the cities still live at the subsistence level. China's Gini coefficient for income in 2016 was high at 0.46. Inequality is not only bad for social fairness, it will also negatively affect growth. If people do not feel equal, they have less incentive to work hard and educate their children. An equal society with a broad middle class is a basis for stability. In my view, China is already a very dynamic and innovative country with a momentum for continued growth. Hence, making society more inclusive and equal will be a greater challenge for China than achieving further technological development and industrial transformation. Mobility between urban and rural areas is necessary for balanced and inclusive growth. The government is unifying the rural and urban hukou, the household registration system, for small and mid-sized cities. They should do more. The government work report presented to the People's Congress confirmed the continued effort to expand access for migrant workers to many social services such as education, health, and public housing in cities. Reforming the tax system to support income redistribution is a priority. They should include increasing the contributions of progressive personal income tax to government revenue and introducing taxation on inheritance and capital gains. In 2016, China's personal income tax revenue was a mere 1.4% of GDP, compared with the OECD average of 8%. Local government's taxation power should be strengthened, including through the introduction of a property tax, so that they have sufficient revenue to deliver social services. ADB is providing China with a technical assistance on these reforms. Education and skills development, especially in lagging areas with a focus on gender equality, is a strong tool to achieve inclusive growth. ADB is currently supporting comprehensive province-wide reform of technical and vocational education and training, what we call TVET, in Guangxi. Fostering small and medium-sized enterprises through microfinance and capacity building is also important. ADB finance project in the Xinjiang-Uruguay autonomous region is boosting traditional garment production and tourism in support of ethnic minorities, especially women. China's second challenge in the new era is to tackle climate change and promote a better environment. Indeed, China is in many respects championing a green economy and is a crucial player in global efforts to mitigate climate change under the COP21 Paris Agreement. ADB is supporting a holistic plan for Yangtze River Economic Belt based on the concept of ecological civilization. We are planning to provide total funding of $2 billion for a number of interrelated projects. ADB will support water pollution control and water resources management in the upper and middle reaches of the river. In the Greater Beijing is engaged in a series of projects and reform programs since 2015 to improve air quality. For example, in 2017, ADB approved a $500 million loan to help establish regional emission reduction and pollution control facility. The facility will catalyze private sector resources and support the deployment of high technologies for major emitting industries. The third challenge I want to take up is China's aging population. The number of people aged 65 years and above in China reached a record 158 million in 2017, while China's working age population started to decline in 2014. China's elderly dependency ratio is expected to exceed 30% by the mid-2030s from 15% in 2016. ADB has supporting China's development needs in an aging society. Our actions include support in reforming the rural social security system, strengthening health and pension administration, and building age-friendly cities. In Hubei and Hebei, ADB has been working to support elderly care services provided by local authorities in partnership with the private sector. There are many challenges in China's new era, including the three I have just mentioned. To tackle such challenges and sustain development, I'd like to stress the macroeconomic stability and efficient market are prerequisite. Regarding macroeconomic stability, as discussed in the Central Economic Work Conference last December, policymakers clearly understand the potential risk from overcapacity in some sectors, rising real estate prices, over-leveraging in parts of the financial sector, and high debt levels of the corporate sector and local authorities. China is taking a comprehensive and proactive approach to prevent systemic financial risks. It established last year the Financial Stability and Development Committee and the State Council comprising the Central Bank, the Ministry of Finance, and financial regulators to ensure financial stability and coordinate financial reform. A new regulatory commission will be formed by merging the existing banking and insurance regulatory commissions to better regulate the country's banking and insurance sectors. Prudential supervision function of the central bank will also strengthen. Regarding the importance of the market, I was encouraged by Vice Premier Liu He's speech when I attended the World Economic Forum in Davos this January. He stated that China will continue to let the market play a decisive role in resource allocation. He also mentioned that China is against protectionism and that China will protect property rights, especially intellectual property rights, promote fair competition, substantially open up the service sector, ease barriers to entry in the finance sector, and increase imports. I strongly believe the government and policies should lay the groundwork for economic development. But the market is critical for efficiency, innovations, and sustainable growth. Proper incentives for economic players based on rules are essential. Industrial policies should be designed and implemented in a manner which will not constrain fair competition between companies within and outside the country, and will not harm efficiency over the long term. Ladies and gentlemen, China's position in the world community is totally different today from 40 years ago. China has a very large presence in the areas of industry, commerce, finance, culture, geopolitics, and others. Its influence and presence may be much greater than what the Chinese people themselves believe. Therefore, it is quite natural that the global community expects China to play an even more important role in multiple areas. I trust that China can support other developing countries by sharing its development experiences. And China will be able to make great contribution to the world and gain respect by continuing to learn from experiences of its own and others and absorbing beneficial results of human civilizations, whether they be from the East or West. Here, I'd like to recall the famous first phrase of the analects of Confucius or Yun Yu. Confucius said, "Isn't it a pleasure to learn, and then from time to time recite and practice what you have learned? Isn't it also a great joy when friends visit from distant places?" I studied this phrase in my high school days in Japan. At that time, I didn't fully understand the profoundness of the saying. Over the years, I have become increasingly aware that learning is important, but to recite and practice is even more important for all of us. I'd like to conclude my remarks by following Confucius' second point. Seeing so many friends visiting from all over the world to exchange free views is another great joy. Thank you very much.
坐这儿吧。非常感谢中尉行长的精彩演讲。下面我们进入
Thank you,
提问互动。
Mr. Nakao, for your great speech. And now, the floor is open for questions. So let's see if there are questions online given to our two speakers. There's one question for Mr. He Lifeng. The question is, according to the structural reform plan given by the central government, there has been a change in the functions of NDRC. How do you see this? And centered around high quality growth, what will NDRC do in terms of improving its functions? Thank you. In this year, this month, the central government and CPC committee has promulgated a plan, and in the first session of the NPC, we also passed the reform plan for the State Council. So this new strategic plan is the one that covers the most areas and with the greatest strength since the founding of New China. And certainly it will play a very important role in future as we move forward in reform. So since the founding of New China, this is the greatest reform plan that covers macroscopic views of functional bodies of the government. That's why we will, of course, study and do research on the plan and implement it very fully. The NDRC, its predecessor, was the National Planning Committee in 1958. That's the year when it was first established. So over all these past years, it has played a very important role in helping as a helper or assistant to the State Council. That's its main function. That is to make plans for strategic development and conduct macroscopic management and supervision, especially in the area of economic development. So this structural plan this year has given very important guidelines for us. Firstly, we need to downsize. We need to enhance our role of NDRC. That's the role we have been sticking to all these years, toward more balanced, more sustainable, and effective growth at a higher quality. We need to strengthen our role in doing this macroscopic planning and making critical contribution in coordinating economic growth. So in terms of downsizing, we need to engage more private sector or the market in deciding in determining economic development. As to things that can be addressed at local level, our function will also be taken over by the local levels. And to the functions that can be taken care of by professional agencies or professional sectors, these issues we will also delegate to those agencies and authorities. So according to this guideline, we have a total of 7 guidelines in transforming our functions. We will do a very full implementation of all these. So another thing, besides downsizing, is to enhance our role in the new era. We need to fully implement the guidelines in building a new socialist country in a new era proposed by President Xi Jinping, and also the guidelines given in the government's work report, that is to enhance research and study on macroscopic management, macro policy management, especially in areas that are critical in terms of strategy for China's future growth, in terms of, for example, industrial strategic growth, and the coordination between social and economic development. We need to roll out a basket of policies in that regard. And after it has been approved, we will see to the full implementation of those measures. We need to do a better coordination job at the central level. So NDRC, as a government organ that coordinates in a holistic approach economic development, we need to see to the full implementation of the approved measures. In the process of development, there might be some challenges and problems that we will meet, and we need to address those challenges in a timely way. For example, in this year, we will conduct a midterm evaluation of the 13th five-year plan, as well as evaluation of major strategies taken in this time period according to the spirits or guidelines of the 19th CPC National Conference, and to make adjustments where necessary accordingly, so as to further promote more effective, reliable, healthy, and sustainable growth of China's economy in future. We have every confidence, and we have full determination to do that in 2 regards, downsizing and enhancing role. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. He. And now let's take a look at whether there are questions for our president of ADB, Mr. Nakao. Now, there is a question for you, Mr. Nakao. In recent years, in terms of inclusive growth, environmental sustainability, the ADB has made very positive contributions. And as China moves forward to embrace high-quality development, what will ADB do? Can you share with us some specific measures ADB is going to take in 2018 in this regard? Thank you.
Elderly care systems, especially using PPP framework, or using the resource and also the management capacity of private sectors. We are supporting the Yangtze River's program to clean the waters, to keep the waters clean, and to have a comprehensive kind of approach to the ecological civilizations. We are also supporting SME finance to have strong support for some lagging areas and so on. And also, I'd like to say that what we have been doing in these 32 years by constructing together the important infrastructure has been the very important impact on the inclusiveness, although we are now moving more toward social sectors and also climate changes. So regarding sustainability, we are supporting renewable energy programs, and also we are supporting carbon market ideas through our technical assistance. Those are that we are doing and also continue to do.
好， 谢谢钟文行长。还有一点时间，后台看看。
Okay, thank you, Mr.
第二个问
Nakao.
题
We
还
still
是
have
问
some
钟文行
time.
长的。
So, another question is also
您
from
刚
Mr.
刚
Nakao.
提到8个条件，是否可以详
You
细
just
讲一
mentioned
下？
8
就是
conditions.
你提到的中国发展
Can
经验
you
当中的8个方面的
Expound
理念
on that.
大家对这个问题可能比较感兴
That
趣。
is a condition based on China's development experience. I think this person
Thank you
might be
very
very
much.
interested in this.
So as I
can
said,
you share more?
these ideas of 8 conditions are not so new, and everyone has spoken about these issues, academicians and others. But when I compare China with some other countries, there is a clear difference. Investment in infrastructure has been very strong in China for transport, including highways, high-speed trains, and ports, and powers. Those are the basics for economic development. There was a time when the World Bank and others discussed the importance of social sectors empowering people. But without power, without water, without transport, people cannot access education and health, and also there are no investment from within and outside the countries. So that is one of the very important key. And sound macroeconomic management since the 1990s, and also during the Asian crisis time and global financial crisis time, China has pursued very strong, sound monetary and fiscal policies. And open investment and trade regimes. For instance, in many countries had more import substitute ideas, more state guidance ideas in 1960s and 70s. India and Indonesia, for instance, were not communist or central planned economies. But they still followed socialist ideas. Socialist ideas were very strong to support people. And also, there was a very strong sentiment against colonial kind of powers from the past experiences. So they tried to do things more by themselves, but it didn't work well. So China started opening up and reforms in 1978 and started learning technologies, ideas, macro policies, and so on, very seriously. And I think it influenced also Vietnam, Indonesia, and India. India started the reform in 1990s. So I cannot stress more the importance of the opening up using market. That is critical. And good governance and strong delivery of public services. I think China has a very strong tradition of a very capable bureaucracy based on the merit. And it could deliver things based on the knowledge and analysis. There were so many institutes who brought in so many ideas from abroad regarding, once again, macroeconomic policies, financial policies, and also technologies. So strong delivery of public services, very important. And social inclusiveness. Yeah, I cannot mention certain countries, but in some countries, still land is owned by more limited people. Some people are so poor and they cannot educate their kids. So in case of China, after these revolutions in late 1940s, there is a more inclusiveness. People became more equal. And I think it kickstarted the growth. And clear vision by the government is clear. And as like other Asian countries, China has had a cooperative relation with the international community, with the neighboring countries. They became WTO member. They became part of ASEAN +3, APEC. So I think this attitude toward international community has also supported China. And I hope these 8 conditions will be strengthened in coming years for China.
好，非常感谢钟伟行长。 由于时间的关系呢，我们今天的这个
Thank you, Mr. Nauka. Due to the interest of the time,
到此结束。刚才上面
so
两位呢
we're concluding the Q&A session.
这个我用
And Mr. He and Mr. Lauka has made very fantastic briefing.
何主任呢
I would like to take 2 minutes to summarize.
升级
For Mr. He, he summarized some of the achievements of our economic reform, and also
他讲到了3大攻坚战，实际上
he proposed some of the initiatives to address the weakness,
短板。我们创新
and also he mentioned the 3 critical battles, that is the forestalling and diffusing risks, targeting poverty alleviation, and fight against pollution. All of these are helping to improve the livelihood of the people and improve the economic development of high quality. And also he talks about the indicators and assessment systems and policies
从6个方面，包括
in order to sustain a high quality development. And he also
这几个方面讲了
discussed
重点，
about 6 areas
我觉得讲得非常
in the
全面
revitalization, green development, and sustained economic development.
目标要求
He made a very comprehensive
都非常有
briefing
帮助。中委行长呢
and further elaborate on the actions and measures for us to realize these goals. And for Mr. Lakao, he also emphasized the 8 points
这个成功的总结、经验的总结
that is built upon the achievement for China's achievement in the past 4 decades, and he also proposed some suggestions for
讲得非常好啊。
our actions in the years ahead.
保护生态环
And I
境的问
think
题，
he made a very good points on some of the key issues in China. For example, the insufficient development and imbalanced development.
这个提示也是非常重要。当然
And he
最后
also
的这个建议
mentioned
呢
that we need to pay
实际上
close
我们应对这些
attention
要
for
解决
the
这些短板
ecosystem as well.
应对这些风险，还是要
And the last point he made,
扩大开放。
I think, is very inspiring. In order to address all of these issues, we have to deepen the opening up and the reform. All of these remarks are very inspiring.
是衷心的感谢。
So please give them a big round of applause. Thank you.